Ahoy there! Captain Benzie here, coming at you with another episode of the Frigate Pilot's Manifesto, the series that aims to teach you everything you'll need to know to become a dedicated frigate pilot in EVE Echoes. Today's video is going to be a little different to usual. Normally we're looking at the combat potential of various different small ships. Today we're actually going to be taking a look at a combat ship and turning it into something much more sedate. We're going to be looking at scanning and analysing, or hacking as it's being referred to, in Relic Data Sites using a Slasher 2 Interceptor. Why the Slasher 2 Interceptor when there's an exploration frigate available? Well, because the Explorer frigates lack a crucial mid-slot right now. With only 2 mid-slots, they're not actually capable of doing this job effectively. So once again, the Interceptors step up as the frigate of choice, just like they are for pretty much everything else. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this video. Let me know if you do by hitting a like on it, subscribe to the channel for all things EVE Echoes, ding that notification bell to make sure that you never miss an update, make sure you have selected all notifications, and if you're enjoying videos like this about frigates, make sure to check out the Frigate Pilot Manifesto playlist in the description below. There's a whole ton of this series going on there. I love me my frigates. Anyway, with all that said and done then, let's jump into why we're going to be using the Slasher 2 Interceptor to scan for relic and data sites. Before we proceed, I am doing this video on the assumption that you are already familiar with my lesson in the Catskull Academy on how relic sites and data sites actually work. If you haven't watched that video already, I do strongly recommend that you pause this one and go check that one out first. I'll put a link in the description down below, and hopefully a card along the top of the screen now as well. So click that, watch it. This video will be here, ready and waiting for you once you've done so. We all good? Cool, so first things first then, let's talk about why we're not using the dedicated Explorer frigates, because yes, at tech level 10, next to the Slasher 2 Interceptor is the Probe Explorer, and there's a Heron Explorer, or an Imicus Explorer, and a Magnate Explorer, ships that have dedicated bonuses to scanning and exploration. They can fit covert ops cloaks, they have cargo hold capacity for the additional loot that they're going to be carrying. Why are we not using these when they're clearly intended for this purpose? And, well, the answer is simple. You are going to need a wide resonance scanner in order to scan down the relic and data sites. You are then going to need a relic or data analyzer in order to open those cargo containers, and since you don't know what type of site it is you're scanning down until you've successfully scanned it, you are pretty much going to need both the relic analyzer and the data analyzer. Otherwise, you scan down a site that uses the other type of analyzer, and now you need to find a station to dock up at so that you can swap your modules around, by which time when you come back, someone else has already found it and looted it. Not exactly fun, right? So that's a wide resonance scanner, a data analyzer, and a relic analyzer. 3 mid-slots. Now look at the Probe Explorer and see if you can spot the problem. That's right, the Explorer frigates only have 2 mid-slots, which wouldn't be so infuriating if 3 mid-slots hadn't been a staple on frigates since Tech Level 7. The Tech 7 assault frigates had 3 mid-slots, the Tech 8 interceptors had 3 mid-slots, the Tech Level 9 stealth bombers had 3 mid-slots. Heck, the Tech Level 10 interceptors have 3 mid-slots, as do the Tech Level 10 stealth bomber 3s. Yeah. All of those have 3 mid-slots, so it boggles my mind as to why the Probe Explorer and the other Explorer frigates only have 2. Netties, please, like, we've got a drone tube here which does literally nothing for us, but we lack the needed mid-slot. I'm hoping this gets patched in, and this video becomes unimportant. So theoretically, you could use any ship that has those mid-slots available to it. So you could go for a Hound 3 if you were an idiot and built one and then discovered that it's one of the worst ships ever created. You could use that as an exploration vessel. The reason I've gone for the Slasher Interceptor, or indeed you can do this with any of the Interceptors, is simply that first of all, it has that immunity level to the warp disruption fields, the bubbles. You cannot be caught in an interdictor sphere, so you can just jump through gate camps with impunity. That means that you can safely jump through hostile territory and not worry too much about getting caught in a gate camp. Secondly, these things are absolutely... they're some of the fastest ships in the game. They are fast, they have a small signature radius, they are very nimble and mobile, which means, 1, you can move between those systems nice and quickly. You can move into a system, scan it down, if nothing, move into the next one, so on and so forth. If you then happen to find a site, you can warp into it quickly, you can scan down your containers, lock onto them nice and quickly because you've got a quick scan resolution here. The nimble agility means you can very quickly maneuver between those different containers whilst you analyze them. To me, this is just an absolutely great ship for doing this in. The fact that you've got those 3 high slots as well and some decent combat potential, arguably too much combat potential if you ask me, means that actually you can also bully other people. If you land in a relic or data site and there is someone else there, a Tech 2 Interceptor is a scary enough ship that people will think twice about whether or not they stick around and continue looting. So it's basically a mixture of that agility and speed, the immunity to warp bubbles, the fact that you've got the 3 necessary mid-slots, and the fact that you can bully other people out of there. And I personally go for the Slasher because I just enjoy this ship. It's a little bit faster than some of the others, a little bit more manoeuvrable. And it gives us just that freedom to, you know, move around. But if you did want to do this with an Atron or a Condor or an Executioner, that's absolutely fine too. You know, they all have a big enough cargo hold to kind of make this work. It's not as big as the Explorers would have, which is disappointing, but, you know, it's enough. You're mainly looting blueprints and salvage materials, which don't really have all that much of a cargo space footprint to them, so it's pretty straightforward. Now, how do we actually fit this then? Now, I'll give you a heads up first of all that this is actually a relic of my Combat Slasher 2 Interceptor, so it was rigged and fitted for combat before I repurposed it for this. That means that the nanocore I'm using here is one that is currently using additional cannon damage, and my rigs are based on cannon damage as well, which might not be the best way of doing it. You might decide that you want to go for something like flight velocity on your nanocore, and on your rigs you might go for additional shielding or things like that, you know, defensive rigs rather than combat. I'm not complaining about having the combat rig set up here for collision accelerator and 2 burst aerators, and having the nanocore giving me additional turret damage as well, simply because I've gone for GISTI C-type small autocannons. As I mentioned, this is a bully of a scanning ship. I can land in a site, and if there are other players there, I can immediately work out whether or not I reckon I can take them. If they're in sort of like a puny destroyer or a smaller frigate, like another type of exploration frigate or something, I might decide whether or not I can actually take them on and try and push them out. Heck, if I blow them up, I get anything they've already looted, and if they just flee, well, at least they're not looting the rest of the site whilst I'm there. Makes sense, I hope. That's the concept I'm going for here. The mid-slots are, of course, the 3 that you would anticipate. We've got Data Analyzer, Relic Analyzer, and an Explorer wide-range scanner. Now, I've gone for the Meta Level 8 versions here. I'll be completely honest with you, I do not rate the prices they are at the moment. If you're watching this and they are still over $1 billion ISK, go for the cheaper options. Get yourself a nice Meta Level 5 scanner, one that has the analysis strength of 3. That will open up a good 80% of all of the boxes that you find. Yeah, it's infuriating to have that extra box there that you just can't open, but in all honesty, there's not that much loot. You'd better just to loot what you've got and save yourself some money. Come back and get the Meta Level 8 versions when they are cheap enough. I was lucky enough and sourced these dirt cheap from some folks who want to remain anonymous. I did offer a shout out in the video, but there we go. I've gone for the Meta Level 8s just so I can absolutely do this with impunity, but you're going to need basically a wide resonance scanner and one each of the analyzers, hence the 3 mid slots. Now, for the low slots, I've gone for a micro warp drive, which gives us that additional speed required to just maneuver around nice and quickly. I've gone for a cloaking device. It's not a covert ops. Obviously, I cannot fit covert ops. We'll talk about this in a second. And I've gone for a warp core stabilizer. Now, this is my what I refer to as prevention rather than cure build. I am going to land on a gate. I'm going to assume that that gate is not camped, although if it is, I will just continue to autopilot through to the other side. I will then move through to somewhere like, you know, a planet or something that I can land on nice and easily. I will then activate the micro warp drive, start powering off into the distance, activate the wide resonance scanner, then immediately activate that cloak. This means that the scanner will start to activate. I've got a quick burst of speed from the micro warp drive, then I cloak. This means that any ship that is following me is going to have a hard time doing so, or if another ship finds me in system, they're not going to be able to scan me down because I'm cloaked, and if I'm sitting on gate, the micro warp drive is going to have pushed me far enough from the gate that no one's going to decloak me, and the cloak means that they're not going to know I'm there to actually, you know, have a look at me. This means that I can be nose deep in the scanning menu without worrying about someone like locking onto me and engaging me. It's that prevention rather than cure. Once the scan is complete, I can jump into site, move into site, and start opening those containers. Now, the warp core stabilizer is still continuing that theme of prevention rather than cure, as I'm sure you spotted earlier on. In my cargo hold, I do also have an all-round damage control, which I was running at first. I then decided that damage control is all very well and nice, but you're using it to try and get out of your opponent's scram range. You're hoping you survive long enough to get out the scram range to run to safety. Here, I'm just going for the fact that I'm going to be at -4 warp scram anyway, and if a single interceptor or another ship jumps on me and scrams me, that is sufficient to break that and warp away to safety, which I can then do the whole cloak thing. It's all about that safety. This does mean that when it comes down to your rigs, there are a couple of different options here. I've gone for 3 gravity capacitor upgrade 3s. That -15% there to the minimum scan radius is pretty nice to have. It means that I can scan down some of the sites that little bit easier. Of course, the Interceptor ships do not have bonuses to scanning, which the Probe Explorer would, therefore you wouldn't necessarily need these for the Probe Explorer, but because the Slasher 2 Interceptor doesn't have those scanning bonuses, we push that in with the rigs. Alternatively, you could go for 1 or 2 of these, and then add some warp core stability in there, something that makes it just that little bit harder to pin you down if someone does come upon you. I've just gone for the 3 here because we don't know at this point in time what the minimum scan radius of the minimum source radius, sorry, of the different relic and data sites actually is. So until we have figured out what those sites are, I would rather maximize that effect to the best of my ability. You can see here that with the skills I've got and with those 3 rigs, my scan radius, minimum scan radius there is 76.77. I don't think anything is going to be smaller than that. That is a pretty small minimum scan radius, but eventually we'll reverse engineer how small these sites actually are and how difficult they are to scan, at which point we can know whether or not you need to go this low, or if I can actually reduce, I can take those rigs off and put something else in their place, like warp core optimizers, or heck, cargo hold capacity if you wanted to be out in space a bit more and you think that the warp stabilizer is going to be enough for you. But essentially, that is the fit that we're going for here. You can see I've got a natural flight velocity of 836, which is more than enough for moving through a relic or data site. We've got good agility there. You can see that warp preparation of 1.05. Warp speed is nice and fast, so we move through systems easily, and a warp stability of -2 naturally can be boosted to -4 by activating the warp stabilizer. Means we're just that little bit harder to pin down. I'm not going to say, though, that that's bad DPS. 457.85 DPS is pretty good. Like, that's pretty scary if you're in an exploration ship and one of these rocks up. So, I don't know. That's the fit that I'm running. I'm not going to sit here and showcase how this actually works in effect, because you guys have seen that in the relic and scanning video. You can see that a ship like this is more than capable of opening those boxes, because there are no ships in the game that have hacking bonuses right now. Even the Astero and things like that do not have bonuses to your analyzers, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to spend the last few moments of this video just saying I appreciate a lot of you have said that, it's really infuriating that there are these boxes that can only be opened with the Meta Level 8 scanners, and that those are costing anywhere between, 1 and 2 billion ISK a time. I appreciate that. Feedback has been given to the developers. My personal opinion is that there are 3 fixes we need for relic and data sites. The first is that those sites do need to have a despawn timer. Once someone opens the first box in a relic or data site, that despawn timer needs to be triggered so that they disappear. It absolutely sucks having a Meta Level 5 scanner jumping into a data site that you finally found one, you're like, yeah, I finally got it, and there's one box there that hasn't been looted and you still can't open it. It sucks, it's not fun, they need to despawn. Having them despawn also means we need the respawn timer to increase as well. I think once every 4.5 days is the current spawn timer. That's not really enough. Yes, okay, we don't want these to be absolutely everywhere, because then they become the most lucrative thing in the game. Everyone's doing it and no one can find them. It kind of takes on the fun, but I think that respawn timer does need to be a little bit faster than that. The second thing, I'd like to see the Meta Level 7 modules added, which are the, I believe, I could be wrong on this, the True Sancha and the Domination or Dreadgurus, that's one of those two, and for the Relic and Data Analyzers. These are Strength 4. They're not as rare as, they're lower meta level than the storyline ones, the Gravedigger and the Settler Seeker? Guessed. Got it completely wrong. But it's still Strength 4, so they can open the highest tier box. Having those in the game would reduce the value of the Meta Level 8. You might still want to go for the Meta Level 8, because it does have that higher percentage chance to actually clear the box. It gives you that little bit of choice and would help bring the price down by just flooding the market with more strength for analyzers. The final thing I would suggest to the developers, and have suggested to the developers, is that they add into these skills at somewhere pretty high up, like Advanced 5 or Expert 1, somewhere around there on hacking, that the having skills that high would add a single +1 to the strength of your analyzers. So a meta level 3 is theoretically high enough if you have the skills to compensate for it. My thoughts and my opinions there. Do let me know yours in the comment section down below. I've been having a lot of fun with this. I have been flying this ship an awful lot recently. I have bullied some people out of sight, no kills yet, and people tend to run away when they see a Slasher 2 Interceptor arrive in the same Relic and Data Site. I've looted all levels of these. I've yet to be caught in it. I'm just having a whale of a time actually doing it. I'm just hoping that we can get some more people into this and just make the system a little bit better. Also, yes, we need the era mega rifts to disappear, because it sucks jumping into a system, getting 28 signals and knowing in your heart that all of those are era mega rifts. But at the same token, you can't quite rule out the possibility of a lucrative relic or data site, so you have to scan through all of them. Anyway, folks, let me know your thoughts and opinions on this in the comment section down below. If you've got a different fit that you're running, or running a different ship altogether, let me know. What ships are you using for relics and data analysis and scanning? Let me know your thoughts and opinions. Otherwise, happy sailing, and see you in New Eden.